I'd like to introduce Rachael. Hi, Rachael.
Hello.
Rachael, I think was last year. Did you speak?
Yeah, it was last year.
Last year in San Francisco. And I remember what happened was we featured Rachael in the design track, in the influencer track, and quickly realized that we needed to put Rachael out in front of our group in a much bigger way, in a larger way. And we weren't thinking about this in particular, but this is a step towards hopefully having Rachael more involved with our entire general session audience in the future. But Rachael has been somebody amazing. I've been following her a little bit since then. She's had a history of being published in Forbes and Glamour and Business Insider and all of that. But she's become like this really, Rachael, you've become this amazing keynote speaker about thought leadership in defining your brand and understanding your brand. And when we thought about today's session, first with Larry and trying to help with some of the personal human issues that go on with dealing with the pandemic, and then transfer it really into your area of influence, which is how does a designer really think about this so that that brand itself is something that they feel comfortable and confident about, that will make them candidates for all of the right opportunities. So I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to bring up your presentation.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you can just give me the okay, Adam, that you can see it on your end in full presentation mode, I'll get going.
Okay, I think there we go. And I'm out of your way.
Awesome. Okay, guys, I'm excited to be here today. Big honor. This is my favorite conference ever. I was telling Adam and Luba this. I have had the opportunity to speak on stages all around the globe, and this is one of my favorites. I have a big background in design, which I'll talk about later. And it's a fun community, so thank you for having me. And as Adam mentioned, my name is Rachael Bozsik, and I'm an international keynote speaker, and I'm also an elite personal branding coach for creatives. So I work with women specifically in service-based industries. I work with tons of designers, fashion designers, women that own marketing firms, really women in the stylish space, to help them position themselves as really world-class thought leaders so they can be paid the big bucks for their work. And really how I do it is through, I like to call them the 3 Ps. So we're going to go over these today, and I'm going to highly suggest, if everyone has a second right now, just to pull out your notebooks. You're going to have 3 pages of notes. I'm very workshop oriented. But the 3 Ps are press, paid speaking, and also partnerships. So we're going to go through those together today. But essentially, it's my life's goal and my life's mission to help women that have really interesting brands position themselves as credible and also authoritative thought leaders so they can be paid the big bucks for their work. By positioning myself as a thought leader within this elite personal branding space, I've had the opportunity to be featured in over 45 press outlets. So as Adam mentioned, anywhere from Forbes to Glamour to Vogue and everywhere in between, to doing multiple high 6-figure partnerships with female-focused brands. So Kendra Scott, Vera Bradley, L'Oreal, Sephora. And I went from inconsistently in my early days of my business, making, $3,000 a month just to try to figure it out, to making $10,000, $15,000 an hour to educate on this work. And I work with female entrepreneurs all the time that come to me and say things like, I know I need to work on this branding thing, but I'm super overwhelmed. I'm project manage and I'm in QuickBooks and I'm not sure where to start. Or I oftentimes hear them say things like, I'm so busy right now that I feel like I don't have the time, but I know the positioning is crucial for my business to make the money I want to make, but I'm not sure what to do with it. So I want you to know today that you guys are in great hands. I work with, really brilliant and talented women, and they usually fit into 2 categories. They're either brand new to personal branding. They just started their business. They haven't made 6 figures yet, and they know that it's crucial to figure this out now rather than later. Or I have the women come to me that say, I have been featured in the press before. I have done, a partnership with whatever, Rizzoli and High Point, and I want to take it to the next level. What does that look like? So you guys are in great hands, and we'll support everyone along the way today. So let's get into a little bit on my story and how I got into doing this work. So when really early on, when I was in high school, I had a really unique opportunity to be exposed to the real estate market. I grew up in upstate New York, and my parents owned real estate properties, and they happened to be fraternity homes, you guys, in really historic districts, like so yucky, like ceilings falling apart that they were repairing. But when I was outside on break, helping them sweep up before next showing, I would go out on the street and I would see these historic properties and the details and the ambience and the colors, and I just fell in love with the industry. So when I turned 20 on my 20th birthday, I got my real estate license to help my parents show the properties, just kind of as a side gig. And then I decided to go to High Point University, obviously High Point Market's right there. And I went to do a dual degree in entrepreneurship and also luxury interior design. And I had an incredible opportunity, really, really young, like 19 years old, to go to High Point Market twice a year and intern. I helped set up market, work market, close market. And, I was working with Phillips Collection for 2 years and interning with them 30, 40 hours a week, and, working with Hooker to do different displays and vignettes and partnerships with different influencers. And at the time when I was in college, I was the youngest ever writer for Design Today, sharing a millennial's perspective on design. Now, what was incredibly interesting is my girlfriends, who were also interior design majors, came to me and said, I want to have these unique opportunities to work and intern with these brands, but I'm not sure, how do I interview? How do I come across as confident? What does that look like? And when I was in college is when I started my first business, which was called The Brand Girls. And these were some pictures of some really, really early days brand girls. As I mentioned, I was making like $3,000 a month inconsistently, but I started a private coaching practice where we were coaching college women to really define their personal brand within the design lifestyle arena to land their dream jobs and internships. And the reason why I was so passionate about this work was because the young women that I was friends with and were my peers, they were so brilliant and they were so talented, right? They had the leadership skills, they had the GPA, but they were qualified, but not qualified and hired. And I realized it was a personal branding disconnect. That's why they were not landing the dream opportunities. So early days hustle, graduated college, I dedicated, myself to working on Brand Girls full time. I was working in coffee shops. I was living in High Point, but I was working in coffee shops and I was coaching the woman's daughter, and it was also my film studio. And I had a really unique opportunity where I had a girlfriend at the time working at NYU. And at NYU, she was doing programming for students. And she said, listen, I know you're doing work with college women on branding themselves and, taking their qualifications to the next level to get hired. Could you come talk to the fashion students about your work and your coaching and your practice? So I went to NYU. I had about 15, 20 girls in the room, and I shared with them, the work that I was doing, and I let them know, we can do coaching over Skype, and my mind was blown. At the time, my rent in High Point, I'm sure you guys can all understand that when market leaves, nothing's going on in High Point. My rent was $450. I made $700 in that room sharing, the work I was doing, and had women sign up for Skype sessions. And I had this realization in that moment of, I think I'm onto something. I can't believe I basically paid for 2 months of rent, in this hour. And now I'm serving women, in different states. So that summer, that speaking event was probably in April, getting ready for summer internships. That summer, I spent, 3 or 4 months booking myself for speaking events. And I was able to have 15 schools say yes to having me come in the fall. and I was excited about it, to connect and be in person. But I also had this moment of, oh my gosh, I'm going to get on stage and they're going to be like, who the heck is this 22-year-old college graduate? She's my age. What does she know about personal branding and dream jobs? So I spent my second half of summer trying to figure out, how the heck do I get press? And more importantly, how do I get press that matters to college women? And Amy will probably laugh about this, but I was 22, had no clue what I was doing. I was Facebook messaging editors, using LinkedIn, using email. My team and I looked back recently and I sent over 450 messages to editors. And I got, though, the one hit that I needed, which was Teen Vogue, right? Teen Vogue was the holy grail for college women. So I went in that fall. I had 5 schools in September. And I went and I sold $25,000 of my program to college women. Right? I just graduated college. My rent was $400 a month. I was making $3,000 a month inconsistently, to all of a sudden I made $25,000. And I was like, uh-oh, I need to hire a team, right? Like, this is going to grow and we need some support. So over the years, I ran Brand Girls, and let me go ahead and reload this. I ran Brand Girls, and I had a team of 7 that was training and teaching my methodologies. I ran the company for 5 years, and I had the opportunity to connect with over 100,000 women around the globe. I partnered with Oprah's Leadership Academy, worked with Forbes many times, was working with these big national brands sharing our mission and message. And what was really interesting to me was, along the way, I had my girlfriends come to me who were interior designers. They were fashion designers. And they said to me, listen, Rachael, like, how do I get into Arc Digest? Or how do I get a book deal with Rizzoli? Like, what does that look like? How do I get, paid to speak? Or how can I, be a speaker at High Point? How do I do this work in personal branding? And along the way, I was organically coaching them and I was organically training them. And in the past 4 years, I've transitioned. So the work that I do now is solely working with a select few female entrepreneurs to help them and teach them what I did in the market. So I'm partnering with women like Lou from, a well-designed business, and working with her and coaching her to, speaking on stages around the world. So it's been a really unique and incredible opportunity. So what I'm going to teach you and work with you on today is, I'm going to give you kind of my secret sauce of how I train and coach my clients. Now, I coach my clients in 2 ways. I either coach with them through a virtual strategy day, which is a 1-day super intensive, I'm training her exactly on how to take her brand to the next level and make money doing it well, or a Luxe in-person day where a client will fly to me or I'll fly to them for 2 days. Now, this is the 6 steps that I'm literally doing with them during these days. Now, naturally, there's so much prep that goes into it. Like, we get on tons of calls leading up to it. I'm brainstorming 30 pages of notes. I'm rewriting her bio. I'm pulling my industry contacts and connections. So this is really the strategy of how we do it together. So the first thing that's really important, if you want to start thinking about defining your brand and becoming a thought leader, is getting super niche. So the reason why it's super important to think about defining your brand is because we live in a day and age where it's a super oversaturated market. There are a bajillion residential interior designers. There are tons in your city, and there's tons that do coastal, there's tons that do contemporary, there's tons that do luxury. So the question truly is, and I would write these down in your notes, is like, what is your why you, right? What's your why you? Now, the more clear that we can get on your why you, the more money you're going to have in your pocket. Now, I always like to tell my clients that we want to have your super niche, your personal brand so clear that it makes it incredibly easy for the right clients to say yes to you. Now, the work that I do now is similar, just at a very elevated version that what I was doing at Brand Girls, because the idea was that, these college women are so qualified, but they're not qualified and hired. Now, the women that I work with now, they're so qualified. They're brilliant at their craft. They have a unique design aesthetic, but they don't have a super filled pipeline of ideal clients, right? They're not all at the price point they want them to be at. So the question is how can we take your qualifications and how can we brand it in a way so those ideal clients are flocking to you and having a really easy time saying yes? So you're put in a position where you can be selective in whom you choose to work with. So what I'm oftentimes hearing from women when we start talking about defining their brand and super niching their brand, they say things to me like, I don't have the following on social media. Maybe I don't love my logo. I don't have one of these brand style guides that you have here. Or my favorite, like, I don't have the time. Now, these pieces right here, like the following on social media or your logo, this is sincerely like 0.02% of really defining your brand. And just to give you a quick example, this was my first paid speaking event. I think I made $5,000 from it. I had 18 likes on this photo. And if you notice, my logo is just RB. And I, made it myself in Google Paint and I was playing around with it. It's pretty much my same logo if you look in the right-hand corner now. This is just a little bit of an elevated version. So just to be clear, that has nothing to do with personal branding. Your real definition of a personal brand is this. I would write this down. It's really the impression that you leave when you exit the room. The impression that you leave when you exit the room. Now, I really want you to kind of circle this, highlight this, maybe come back to it. And I want you to think about this. Like, what impression do I leave when I exit the room? If you are saying, oh, she's a residential designer, or oh, she works on coastal projects, that's not super niched enough. That doesn't have a special factor or a special sauce that allows you to long-term get those dream clients that you're looking for. So there's really 3 pillars to defining this. And I'm going to go over brand niche a little bit more today because that really lays the groundwork for brand image and brand voice. But let's go over some quick definitions so we're on the same page. So a brand niche is really how you're serving, okay? So it's how you're serving and how you're showing up in the marketplace. So your brand niche includes, the types of projects you work on. It includes your price points. It includes the different services that you offer. It includes that target market that you're trying to gain access to, okay? Now, your brand image is how you're seen in the market by your brand niche. So this is, of course, naturally your headshots, but this is also, the imagery that you select and use on your website to showcase your different projects. This is how you're showing up to, a consultation meeting with a potential client. This is really how you're being seen by your ideal client. Now, your brand voice is, really the vocabulary and the verbiage that you're using to communicate with your brand niche. So this would be your client intake form. This would be if you have, a section on your website that allows them to contact you, what sorts of questions are you asking to vet them? These are the testimonials that you choose to display. This is your newsletter. This is the captions on your social media. Now, where I'm oftentimes seeing women get stuck is they're not clear on the most important part, which is their brand niche. And they have no clue what the super niche brand is, what makes them special and what makes them different. So then they just start selecting images, conducting their consultations a certain way, creating services and hoping that they work. Where the real strategy is getting crystal clear on who do you want to serve? What is your brand niche? And then making your image and your voice and your packages to match. Hoping that makes a little bit of sense. So let's go ahead and just at a really, really basic level, start to play around with this idea of defining your brand. So I want to give you guys a little networking script that you can use for tomorrow's networking event. And I know there's some networking happening later on this afternoon. So I want you to go ahead and scribble this in. This is your personal brand statement. So the skeleton version. So I'll give you an example of myself. I would say my name is Rachael Bozsik, and I'm an elite branding coach, and I work with high achieving females that are in the creative industry. And it's really my core focus and my core passion to help female entrepreneurs gain credibility and visibility through their personal brand. So I want to give you 2 seconds to play with this. And I want to see if you can niche it down a little bit further. Do you work with a certain sector in the market? Do you work with new buyers? Do you work with only bachelors on guts, right? Can you be specific on who you serve? I had a client come to me recently, and she wants to work with athletes in Arizona, male athletes. And she's like, I want to work with them. They just moved to the area and they have big pockets and they'll trust me. So do you see how that's crystal clear on the niche that she serves? Okay, so I'll give you 2 seconds to fill this in. And just as a really good rule of thumb that I always share with my clients, you want your super niche to be so crystal clear that 2 weeks from now, if you introduce yourself to someone this afternoon, and they could refer you to someone else. So for example, like I would do a total disservice that if 2 weeks from now, you met a fashion designer friend, a friend in the beauty industry, a friend in interior design that needed help with personal branding and you didn't remember, this is the work that I do, right? So get it crystal clear, this pitch. So just as an example of the power that super niching has on your brand. So we were just chatting about my former company, the Brand Girls. We only worked with college women, you guys. We didn't work with recent graduates. We didn't work with men. We worked on first-time jobs and internships. Now, because of this, we were able to serve this specific sector in the market. So much so, we were so clear on our brand niche that it made us really easy for us to create packages that were priced really similar to SAT workshops. We had emojis on our website because that really related to our target market. We ran our programs around spring break and winter break. Do you see what I mean? Our consultations, we were asking about the courses that they're taking, their dormitories, what they're doing for their summer holiday. We spoke the language of our ideal target market, meaning it was really easy for universities to say, yes, come in and to speak to all of our sorority women. It was really easy for women to sign up for our workshops and I'd partner them with a coach. It was really easy when we had our first piece of press with Teen Vogue for Teen Vogue to say, become our career guide, write many articles for us. Let's co-host events together. Does that make sense? Our market was Teen Vogue's market, so we had this collaboration. That's what super niching does. In short, for your notes, it allows your ideal clients to say yes to you. It's like my new client that wants to work with athletes in Arizona. When someone comes to her, you know, they just got drafted to an Arizona team, and she is the go-to celebrity athlete designer in that area. And she's branded that way. It's seen on her website. Her packages, you know, showcase that she takes care of everything A to Z because these athletes are so busy. It has a hefty price point. They don't question it, right? It's easier for them to say yes. Hoping that's making sense to you guys. Okay, so I want to share with you guys a quick example of one of my clients, and you guys might know Kathy, that I worked with actually over quarantine. So Kathy came to me. As you guys know, she's built an incredible business, and this is how she was describing her brand, right? She had the credentials. It just wasn't elevated in the way it should be. So it said, you know, she was the founder and CEO of Kathy Quill Home, you know, a curated online boutique. You know, it would guarantee to elevate your home. online design services, customer relations, it helps people create a life that they love living in, right? We can do better than that. Even like looking at the imagery of our personal branding. Let me show you guys what we did by really defining Kathy as someone that's a thought leader known for this work. Okay, even the imagery, the fonts, right? So we said that she's the CEO of Kathy Quo Home, a recognized TV personality and celebrated interior designer. She is published in the press as an international guru within the home and lifestyle space. She has an unmatched eye for curating, sourcing, and designing luxury furniture and homewares. Today, she continues to develop the fastest growing online platform in the home and design industry, right? She now serves as a speaker and activist for female entrepreneurs, and it's really her goal and her mission to support women to intentionally grow and scale value-focused teams. Are you guys seeing the difference between this? And there's tons of women that are owning, online boutiques, to someone like this, the branding, right? Growing the fastest online platform, TV personality. It's the same idea over and over again. My clients are so talented. They're so brilliant at their work. I'm not changing the way they do their work. I'm helping them position themselves in a way so the ideal clients, the press outlets, the partners have an easy time saying yes. The goal is to create a really money-generating personal brand. Okay, so the second thing that I'm doing with my clients, whether it's one of our virtual strategy days or it's one of our Lux in-person days, is once we define their brand, is understanding that niche. Figuring out, where does that niche hang out? Where do those athletes hang out that my client wants to coach with? Who do we want to partner with to get access to those athletes? What sort of press credentials would make an athlete excited? The next thing that we do is we build out their brand toolbox. So building out a brand toolbox means that, prior to our virtual strategy day or in-person day, I am literally building out 30 pages of notes for my client. I am rewriting her bio for her. I am creating copy and paste pitch templates for her. I'm going through her website and trying to figure out what images should we use. Should we call our services? What should we price them at? So we build all of that and go through it together. And I'm sure you're seeing each of these pieces build into each other. You should not be pitching the press for podcasts or, digital or print press unless you're clear on your brand. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is pitching the press. So let's be super clear, and I think Amy mentioned this too, on what we're considering press. So what I'm considering press is different outlets or different stages or platforms that are going to raise your visibility. So these are podcasts, these are stages, these are different newsletters, these are different Instagram feeds, whether it's yours or you're taking over someone's. Okay, this is naturally, right, press in a publication or seen online. Now, the reason why this section is so important is because we live in a Google age, right? Everyone's going to Google your name, and if you want to be paid top dollar for your work, then you need to have press. It's essentially a necessity. Now, the goal is that press is raising your credibility and authority. So how I always like to think about this is like this, right? Simply put, people don't trust you if they don't know you, naturally. But they trust Veranda, they trust Vogue, they trust Arc Digest. Just on a personal level to share, I spoke at Harvard Business School a few weeks ago, and because now I have Harvard Business School and training and teaching their female business owners and students, I can now go to Cornell, I can go to Columbia, and because they know Harvard and I have that credibility piece, Columbia, Yale, all of those guys have an easy time saying yes. Same thing for your clients. So here's what I'm oftentimes hearing women say. They're saying to me, I don't have the funds, or maybe I just don't want to spend my funds on $4 to $5 grand a month to pay a PR agency or someone to do it for me. I hear them oftentimes say to me, I'm really, really new. I haven't made my first 6 figures yet. I'm not an expert. I get it's important, but like, I'm not sure where to start. Now, the work that I do with my clients is like, we literally build it all together. We have that brand toolbox. We have the copy and paste for them, that once the heavy lifting is done, it really only takes an hour a week. And what's so incredible to me is once we get the branding right, and that hour a week is usually increasing, their profits by 30%. So perfect example, I had a client that I worked with recently, and she was a luxury event planner. And she was in the middle tier space. She was hustling for her clients and not getting paid the money that she wanted to be paid. She wanted to work with less clients at a higher dollar, but her brand wasn't right to be really considered at those rates. So we fixed it up. We got the bio, we got the website right. I priced her packages in a way that made sense. And then we got the first stamp of approval we needed, Vogue. So if you are a wedding planner and you are seen in Vogue, I think we can all agree that no one is questioning that you're at a higher rate than others. She has a pipeline filled with ideal clients now. Does that make sense? That 1 hour a week totally transformed her business. Once again, we could have not gotten the press unless her first step, the branding, was right. That's why it's really important that you're thinking about super niching yourself down. Okay, so I'm gonna go through with you guys just kind of a quick overview of pitching the press. Now, I wanna go over pitching press that could be, once again, like podcast, could be digital, it could be stages, it could be print press. So what I wanna do quickly is an activity. I want you guys to stop thinking about yourself as interior designers. You guys are so much more than that. I want us to start thinking about ourselves as female entrepreneurs that are incredibly multifaceted and talented in different arenas. So what we're going to do together is we're going to come up with 3 different angles to pitch yourself. The more angles we have, for your notes, the more angles we have, the more press opportunities you will have. So the first thing I want you to write down is what is your expertise and what is your special factor. Okay, so for mine, I would say it's elite personal branding. The next thing that I want you to write down is what is your office and owner's expertise. Okay, so like, what do people come to you for? Are you like awesome at HR and like onboarding new team members? Are you amazing at project management? Do you have a unique eye? Just jot these down quickly. And then the last one is what is really personal and mission-based for you. So for me, I sponsor 50 little girls for Christmas every year. I run a summer camp for them. So I'm really, really passionate about supporting the next generation of girls. So it could be something like that. Or it could be like you're a single mom and you're really passionate about running a business and taking care of your family. It could be that you're incredibly passionate about being an at-home chef, right? So what's something that feels close to you, whether it's a hobby or it's something that's mission focused? So jot those 3 down for me. The next thing that I want you to do is I want you, next to each of those 3 ideas of angles, I want you to write down an outlet that would be interested in that story. So I'll give you guys an example of one of my clients, Anne, of Rochambeau. I worked with Anne years ago. You guys might know her. You might use some of her chandeliers in your projects. Now, she, could easily pitch stories for chandelier, chandelier, chandelier. But guess what? She has 2 young daughters, and she has a husband, Will, that she runs the business with. So a story that's more, number 3, personal and mission-based, is they're based out of Charleston, South Carolina, and her daughters come in on weekends to help figure out different beads and coloring. A story like that would fit for Southern living. Anne also used to be an incredible jewelry designer in New York City before she started Rochambeau. And she is so brilliant at sourcing and vetting and finding resources overseas, right? Different beads and jewels. Now that's a feature for Forbes. Does that make sense? Okay, so write down an outlet that would cover an angle that you're passionate about for your personal brand. The next thing I want to go through, and I'm going to go over this really, really quick. I'm spending like 2 hours training my clients on this so they can do it themselves, is pitching. Now, the first thing you need to know is that every publication has an editorial calendar online. An editorial calendar basically outlines what stories they're going to publish in the near future. So we were able to get Rachael and Anne a feature in the Holy Grail, right? Arc Digest. And we did this around, I think it was a week where they're doing eco-friendly design pieces for, I think it was like a World Energy Day or World Green Day. We knew that was coming. So we decided to pitch a certain piece, a chandelier that used recycled beads from old Coca-Cola bottles. Does that make sense? Or March is Women's History Month. So we would pitch a story about how Anne and her young daughters, are really passionate about design and doing this together for Oprah magazine. Okay, you can find those calendars online. The next thing you want is the correct contact. Do not pitch someone that covers hospitality and new restaurant openings, right, for Chicago living if you are not a restaurant owner. Make sure you have the right contact. You'll next have an interesting story hook, right? Those are some of the ideas. So we started brainstorming with your angles, a highly converting pitch, and then you'll have a system around your follow-up and also interviews for these pieces. So once again, that's a whole nother thing I train on, but my goal for you here today with press is number one, for you to understand that having that stamp of approval, right? Like my event planner that had Vogue, how it allows you many times to increase your rates and work with your dream clients. The second thing that I want you to start thinking about, and my goal here was for you to understand that pitching the press, it doesn't need to be just this one story over and over again. You can go with different angles so you can have more options for outlets. Okay, so the next thing that's really important here is once you have, that publicity, whether it is press that's like in a magazine or online, or it's a podcast, or you partnered with a brand to have, some sort of like Instagram sponsored post. How do you take that publicity and turn it into more profits or further promotions for your business? And this is what I'm obsessed with. I love the psychology behind branding. So the real idea here is that you don't have like a one and done. I oftentimes tell my clients, having that one piece of press, like you might get, 2 or 3 clients from it. I'm talking like you have a few page spread in a magazine. Like if you have a 3-page spread in Branda, maybe you'll get 3 clients from it. But like, what are you doing long-term to generate further sales, more profits, and more promotions? The goal is for your publicity to turn into like a lead generation system for you. So I'm sure you're seeing how these are kind of building into each other. I have clients coming to me saying like, well, do I need to be featured in Elle Decor before I'm asked to have a rug line? The answer is many times no. You might have like a rug line because you did a sponsored partnership, right? That was big and visible, which allowed you to get a feature in Elle Decor. Or maybe you were requested to speak at High Point and someone in the audience was a brand that wanted to partner with you. So these can work in many different ways. But once again, these opportunities, partnerships, press, speaking, any of these publicities are not coming unless you have your personal branding correct. I'm going to give you an example of one of my clients, Lucy, and I actually met Lucy last year at the design conference that we had together. And Lucy came running up to me after, and she's like, I want to work together. Now, Lucy came to me, very talented interior designer, but the branding wasn't necessarily there. So together we super niche and we figured out that like Lucy is known for color, right? She works on high-end residential projects in the Midwest and she is the go-to girl to elevate your home for color. Many times she has people that are empty nesters, that's really your target market, that want to reinvent themselves. We purposely selected images that showcased this. We had an interview with Florida Design and I'm like, Lucy, I'm training her. I'm like, really sell how you have pizzazz and energy and enthusiasm and color. That's your brand. Let's get that stamp of approval from Florida Design, from Midwest Living. That was step 1. Then because of that, we were able to, work on different press features. And one of them that she had, coming in was Better Homes and Gardens. She had a 4-page spread in Better Homes. And you'll see right here, Lucy loves color. Are you guys seeing how this is building into each other? Her brand is so clear. She had her husband dressed in these salmon pants, right? To showcase this idea of color. She sold this to the editors because the branding was correct. The opportunities flowed, which led to a pillow line with, you guessed it, color, right? This is all, I'm hoping, making sense to you. So when people are looking to reinvent themselves, they're empty nesters, they want to add color and fun and charm to their life, it's a no-brainer for them to work with a Lucy because her brand is clear that this is the area that she owns, okay? So the next thing that I'm doing with my clients is making sure that they have their crystal clear 1, 2, 3 systems. I'm sure you guys can feel this, but I'm very 1, 2, 3. I'm very focused on like what are money generating activities. And I always like to remind my clients that like after we do the heavy lifting, which is, calls leading up to our coaching day together or our coaching weekend, I'm developing the 30 pages of notes, that after they're trained, they really only need 1 hour a week to implement these strategies. And in many cases, like they're making their investment back tenfold because having that stamp of approval takes them to the next level. So whether it's like the Kathy Quo growing into the fastest growing, online home platform, or it's Lucy able to get Better Homes or get the Pillow Company, or Anne gets Arc Digest, like all of those ideas are because the personal branding is really clear. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to write down what is one large thought leadership goal that you have. Maybe it is a big partnership. Maybe it's changing your marketing, right? And you want a new super niche market you want to serve. Maybe you're done with the types of clients you're serving at a lower end price point. Then step number 2, what is one step that you can take next week to move yourself forward? Maybe it is looking through some of your past projects and displaying them in a new way online. Maybe it's playing around with that little super niche statement that we worked on together. So I'll give you a second to brainstorm those 2 ideas. And I want you guys to know that I'm not sure why this other picture isn't loading here, but 2 things. I have 2 free resources for you. Number 1, if you guys go to my website, here's my name up here. I have a 15 feature opportunities for thought leadership guide. And I know a lot of people have these downloads. Like my team and I probably spent 10 hours on this putting it together. So I'll go through like what type of podcast you should look for. Should you not look for podcasts, right? What type of social media opportunities or trunk shows, like what are your options here? And then the second one, which is not loaded here, is Luann Noguera, who's one of my new clients I'm excited to work with in the next few months. Her podcast, A Well-Designed Business, I just had an episode that aired, I think, like 2 weeks ago, where we kind of did like case study of someone together. So it's fun, kind of, I did a little on-air coaching. So that is also a fun kind of download. Now, if you're feeling like you want to work with me and you're feeling like I'm the right coach to take you to the next level, I want to make a quick note of what this looks like. Now, I'm only working with a very, very small number of female entrepreneurs, like 4 to 5 a month, because it's incredibly intensive work. And naturally, through that, I'm able to become really close friends with my clients. I'm referring them to other speaking events or press opportunities and introducing them to each other. So this is driving me nuts. I'm not sure why stuff isn't loading. But if you're interested in doing a virtual strategy day with me, I have 14 spots left for 2021. And these are $5,000. Once again, it's not just one day. We're spending weeks ahead of time prepping. I'm coming with 30 pages of notes. I'm rewriting the bio. I'm doing copy and paste pitch templates for you. So that's an option for you there. Now, most of my clients, like prior to coming to me, they've, talked to PR agencies and their retainers are $4 to $5 grand a month. We're not just focusing on PR here. We're like working on the full throttle brand, and PR is one piece of that, but you could implement it yourself. Or I have Lux in Person days, which I'm super psyched about. I'm just bringing these back with COVID. I have 6 left for 2021. Just as a quick note, I sold 4 last week. So these are moving fast, and these are 2 days to work with me in person. You can I split my time between Charleston and Chicago, so you can come see me in either, or I can fly to your city. So that's another option. And what's typically happening after these times together, what we're working on is, for example, if we're working on your brand clarity, like I'm literally giving you 3 money generating activities you need to be doing, 2 times a week. Or I'm writing your bio, I'm like figuring out your services and your prices. Or if it's partnerships, like I'm working with you to develop your 10-page media kit. I'll work with you to pitch 7 brands, whether it's pillow lines or tile lines, so you can have those 5 to 6 figure partnership deals. So it's really, really laser focused, strategy focused. And what's typically happening is my clients are, getting national press placements within a month. They're deep in brand collaboration conversations. And depending on what package they go with, they get, 5 to 10 hours of my assistance time to work on their next steps. And as I'm sure you're seeing, these are like very 1, 2, 3, and my clients are trained to implement them. So if you're interested and you feel like I'm the right person to work with you, you can go to my website and you can apply online for a certain package. I'll review your application just to make sure that we feel like there's synergy kind of on both ends. And if it's an alignment, then we'll book a call together. And I have 11 available right now for the rest of the month. And we'll hop on a call and kind of talk about what next steps look like and make sure it's a partnership on both ends. But anyway, whether I work with you or I don't, I'm really hopeful that this served you. I'm hoping that at the very least, you're understanding the power in super niching your brand and in the power of having stamps of approval and credibility to raise your personal brand value so you can be paid the rates that you should be being paid for your work. So hope that's helpful. Adam, I'm going to exit out now, and I know we have a Q&A. Hi. Oh, I think you're muted.
We have a question.
Yes.
For you. And before I ask the question, I want to, I've listened carefully to you.
Yes.
And I wanted to say, I've been on the other side of the equation a lot, which is I own a bunch of magazines, design magazines, and also we are always recruiting speakers and screening speakers and things like that. And if anyone, took half of what you said, right, their life would not only be much more successful, but much more efficient.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, no. And understanding sometimes the thing is you get stuck in your own brain about what you want to be or who you are or how to sort it out. And you forget about the living person on the other end of the phone who has calendars and deadlines and speaking rosters to fill and goals and so forth like that. And the best matches are the people who just bring themselves, who they are, know exactly who they are. And we recognize instantly whether there's a fit or not. And that was like with you.
Yeah.
How we picked you. But anyhow, just from the other side.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah.
But a couple of questions have been coming in as you've been speaking. One was, can you talk about your intro as an example and how you came up with it?
Talk about my intro.
Like,
I'm like, what does that mean?
I don't know, but you mentioned something as your intro, like what's your intro?
Oh, I say that I'm an international keynote speaker and I'm a lead personal branding coach that works with female entrepreneurs within the creative space.
And how long did it take you to define that? Was that like, did it roll off your tongue or did it take hours, days, months?
You know what? I really truly believe like I was put on this earth to like do this work. Like I really truly, I suck at QuickBooks, you guys. Like I am in trouble with my accountant all the time, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that I'm really, really like not talented in, but looking at someone and figuring out like, how can we position them in a way where they can generate cash for their business? Like that comes easy to me. So I'll have like a call with the client. Like I'm looking at my notebook now. I had, a few calls last week. Like they're nuts. Like these thoughts that I come up with, right? I'm like writing down business plans for clients, right? It's just like how my brain works. And I'm really passionate about working with the right people that want to use the strategies.
Got it. Another question just came in. Why would a media kit be 10 pages?
Not always 10 pages, but I have some clients that want to have product partnership deals, right? Where they want to have a licensing line. And that is a really, really big partnership where we're not only showcasing someone's personal brand and what they're capable of and their aesthetic, we also need past testimonials from other brands they've worked with. We need their analytics of what they can, contribute to sell on their own platform. So something like that is a little bit longer compared to if you just want to partner with brands for sponsored posts.
That's amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Those were the two questions that we received. I'm sure that there's a lot more folks who would like to know more about, working with you and about your life and how you can help them. So I just want to thank you again for doing this, Rachael. And so hope that you can make it to one of our next live events.
Are you kidding? I used to live in Atlanta. I'm like psyched that you guys are going there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's our home away from home in Atlanta.
I know, mine too. So I'm excited. Thank you for having me, and thank you.
Okay, Rachael. Thank you very much. Well, I think I let go of Rachael a little too quick. Hold on.
No,
Rachael,
I was just going to say, I'm going to sushi in about 25 minutes, but I will be in Hopin for the next 25 minutes if anyone has any questions.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.